Okay, for this week, we are focused on three different skills. And the first skill that we're going to look at is a sixth grade skill that's built on in seventh grade. And that is the idea of is over of is equal to percent over 100. Last week, I asked you to write these two formulas down. And if you wanted to use pencil and paper, that's fine. If you put it in a Google Doc, that's fine. And last week we spent the majority of our time focusing on word problems and looking at part over whole equals percent over 100. This week we're going to focus on the percent formula, or is over of equals percent over 100. There are a couple of different ways to solve these problems. However, with seventh grade standards, this is the way in which that they want you to solve them, by using this percent formula. The second thing that we're going to focus on this week is conversions between fractions, decimals, and percents. This was started in 5th grade, and you should have worked on them in 6th grade. However, I think that is one of the standards that you didn't get to because of us having to do virtual learning. The third is a concept that is in 7th grade math, and it is a concept that you hopefully will experience in your life, in that it's dealing with simple interest. And this is the idea: if you have a set amount of money in a bank or a loan, and you are earning interest on that money over a certain period of time, and we will be calculating how much money the bank will actually owe you for keeping your money in that particular institution. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at is over of equals percent over 100. Now, as we go through these, each one is going to be a little bit different, but we're going to tackle it the same way as we did last week's. So the first thing that I'm going to do is good. So I'm going to start by saying line is equal to line. Okay. Now from here, I go ahead and I fill in my 100. Okay. Now the next thing that I want to look for is the percent. Do I have a percent? I do have a percent, so 63% is going to go above the 100. Now, from here, I'm looking for my other number, and that's 74 and 34 hundredths is. Okay? Now, that's important, this word is, and that's because in our formula, we have is over of equals percent over 100. And since this word is on top, we would put 74 and 34 hundredths on top, and we would put the missing number in the denominator. Now, from here, you should know how to solve this, okay? We are going to do x times 63 and get 63x. Then I would do 74 and 34 hundredths, and I'm going to get 7,434. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 63. 63 divided by 63 is 1, so we would say that those cancel. It leaves you with your variable x is equal to 7434 divided by 63. That gives me 118 is the value of x. Okay? Now, what this means, 74 and 34 hundredths in comparison to 118 is 63%. So this is 63% of this. Okay? Let's look at number 2. Number 2, we're going to start these problems out by saying line is equal to line. That should be the first thing that you do. From here, you want to go ahead and substitute your 100 because that is a constant. It's always going to be there. So I'm going to put 100 here. Next, you want to look for a percent. And in this problem, we do have a percent. What is 24% of 647? So we have 24%. So I know that it's going to go here because it's a percent. Next, I have of 647. Where should the 647 go? Look at your formula. Of 647. So hopefully you said the denominator. Remember, there's always going to be a number missing, and that is going to be your variable. From here, you want to do cross products. So I'm going to do 647 times 24. So 647 times 24, and that's going to be 15,528. Next, I am going to say x times 100, and that's going to be 100x. Now, guys, from that point, you should be able to do this without any question. We've had our proportions unit the first 9 weeks, which we dealt with solving these types of problems. From here, I'm going to divide both sides by 100. I know that I'm dividing by 100 because that's the number that's with my variable. 100 divided by 100 is equal to 1. So we are left with x equals, and 15,528 divided by 100, I would just move my decimal 2 places. So that's 155 and 28 hundredths. Now, what does this mean? This means that 155 and 28 hundredths is 24% of 687. So this is my answer for this particular problem. Number 3. Number 3 says, what percent of 933 is 391 and 86 hundredths? So remember, you start this problem by saying line is equal to line. Now, what is your constant? Your constant is the 100. It's always going to be in the denominator here. Okay? Next, you want to look for percents. Okay? Look in your problem. We see no percents, so that means that is the part that is missing. So I'm going to put my variable there. Next, remember cubes. I know you can't circle, but I think you can highlight still. So we got of 933, and we have is 391 and 86 hundredths. So of 933, where should it go? Look at your equation. Is over of. Of is the denominator, so 933 should be the denominator. Is the 391, 86. Okay? Now I'm going to do cross products. 933 times x is 933. X is equal to 100 times 391 and 86 is 39186. Alright, next you should divide by 933. 933 divided by 933 is 1. That leaves you with x is equal to 39186 divided by 933, and that gives you 42. Now, to be more specific, where is your variable? Your variable is the percent, so we need the percent. What does it mean? Well, 391 and 86 hundredths is 42% of 933. Let's do number 4. Number 4, start off by saying line is equal to line. Your constant is the 100. From here, look for your percent. That's the second thing I'm going to do after setting this up. So I have a percent here, and it doesn't matter is or of. When a number has a percent with it, it will go above the 100, always. So I'm going to put 81 here. Next, I have of 811. Where should the 811 go? In the numerator or in the denominator? Pause the video and answer the question. Okay, now what I want us to do, 811 should have said denominator because of, so 811. Here's my missing value. I'm going to call that C if you want. From here, you should know how to solve this. Okay, you should know that it's 811 times 81, and that is going to be 65691, and you would do C times 100, which is 100C, and you should know to divide. And dividing by 100 would just move the decimal 2 places, so you're left with C equals 65691. So 656 and 91 hundredths should have been the value here. What does it mean? It means that this number, 656 and 91 hundredths, is 81% of 811. Okay? Remember, always start off by saying line is equal to line. Go ahead and put in your constant. Your constant is always going to be the 100. The next thing you want to look for is you want to look for, does your problem have a percent? And if it does, go ahead and substitute the percent as I did here, here, and here. If it doesn't have a percent, then that's the part that's missing, so you know where your variable is at. Next, I do want us to look at is over of. So you look for the words in front of or maybe behind your number, and you're able to substitute those numbers in for is or of in the equation. Number 5. I'm going to move this here, okay, so you can still see the equation. Start off line equals line. what is your constant? Your constant is 100. Now, look for a percent. You have a percent, which is 85, of 891. Hopefully, you said it goes in the denominator. And now we've got it set up. Now I want you to pause the video and answer the question. What is the value of x? Okay, hopefully you did cross products. 891 times 85. 891 times 85 is 75735. And you did x times 100, which is 100x. And you divided both by 100. 100 divided by 100 is 1. Leaves you with x equals. So it'd be 757 and 35 hundredths. Should have been your answer. Number 6. For number 6, remember, line equals line. That's the way you want to start these problems. Next, go ahead and substitute your 100. Then, look, do you have a percent? I do not have a percent here, so I know that's my variable. Next, I'm going to look at of 182 is 176 and 54 hundredths. Of 182, look at your percent equation. Of goes in the denominator. Is goes in the numerator. So 176.54. Okay, what I want you to do now is I want you to pause the video and answer the question. All right, so hopefully you got x is equal to 97%. What does that mean? That means 176 and 54 hundredths is 97% of 182. All right. Number 7. What percent of 753 is 67 and 77 hundredths? Pause the video and answer the question. All right. Hopefully you started by saying line is equal to line. You went ahead and substituted the 100. You notice you do not have a percent, so you went ahead and put your variable here. Next, you saw of and knew that it needed to go in the denominator, so you put 753 is 6777. Hopefully you set it up this way. Okay. Now, from here, what you needed to do was you did your cross products and divided, and you should have gotten x is equal to 9%. 8. 156 and 24 hundredths is 36% of what amount? Pause the video and answer the question. Okay. From here, start off. Line is equal to line. That's your first step. Go ahead and put in the 100 because that is your constant number. Next, look for the percent. We have a percent here, which is 36. So it goes here. Next, you have 156 and 24 hundredths is. Since you have the word is, you hopefully knew that it goes in the numerator. So 156.24. Here you have your variable. Next, cross products. Multiply and divide. Some people are starting to notice, well, all I do is multiply the numbers that are diagonal from one another, divide by the other number. Some people are starting to catch on to that, and that's fine as long as you understand why it works that way. So if you did cross products divided, you should have gotten C is equal to 434. Number 9. 28 and 2/10 is 10% of what amount? Pause the video, set up your proportion, and solve it. Next, line equals line. Substitute the 100 because that is your constant. Look for a percent. I have a percent, so I know it goes here. Next, 28 and 2/10 is, well, is goes in the numerator's position. So 28.2. I do not have a number here, so I put x. I've got my proportion set up. 10 times x is 10x. 28.2 times 100 is 2820. Divide that by 10. Get x is equal to 282. So 282. Number 10. What percent of 79 is 30 and 2/100ths? Pause the video and answer the question. All right, hopefully you said line equals line. And from here, you filled in your 100. You saw that you did not have a percent. So you put your variable. From here, you would need to read the question, what percent of 79 is 30 and 2/100ths? So of 79, of goes in the denominator, is 30 and 2/100ths goes in the numerator. Cross products, and you should have gotten x is equal to 38%. Alright, so here are some more examples that you can pause the video and work through and answer if you feel like you need more practice. These are the answers to each of these questions. I am not going to go over them. However, if you feel like you need more practice and you want to do these, go ahead and pause the video, work through a couple of them or all of them, and determine whether or not you need more help. And if you do, reach out to Ms. Banks or myself. You can email us, or if you're in class, let us know, and we will go over these with you. All right. So the next thing that we're going to focus on is substitution. We are going to convert between fractions, decimals, and percents. Now, I know that some of us know this already, it being a 5th grade skill, but we may have forgotten. So we're going to go through this together, and this is really just something you need to be able to do in order to be successful on other parts of the standard. Okay, Erica plays trombone in the marching band. She has 75% of her music for this year's show memorized so far. Write 75% as a fraction in simplest form. In simplest form is something that you need to make sure that you understand what it means. It means that the fraction cannot be simplified any further. Okay, so let's say 75%. Well, you know all percents stands for per 100. So percents, you can just write down the percent and put it over the 100. And that's the fraction. This is the fraction that's equivalent to this. However, if you put that in as your answer, it's incorrect. And the reason that it's incorrect is because 75 over 100 can simplify. And in simplest forms, you need to think of what is a number that goes into 75 that also goes into 100. And that number is 25. So you can divide both the numerator and denominator by 25. Think of these as quarters. How many quarters make up 75 cents? Hopefully you said 3. How many quarters make up $1? Hopefully you said 4. So 3/4 is equivalent or equal to 75 over 100. And it's 75% in simplest form. Now, if you have a calculator and you wanted to do it on a calculator, you could have said 75 ABC 100 and then just a second ABC, hit enter, and it would simplify it for you. Hopefully you wouldn't do that with this problem, but if you did, that's okay, I guess. The second part, write 75% as a decimal. So anytime you are changing percents to decimals, you need to move the decimal 2 places to the left. So in whole numbers, we have a decimal here sitting behind the last number. And to move a decimal, just move it 2 places. So 2 places to the left, and that's going to give you 0.75. Now, the way that we say this is 75 hundredths. Okay, 75 hundredths. So to move a percent to a decimal, you move it 2 places to the left. And that might be something you want to take note of, right? So maybe you need to write on a sheet of paper, or you want to put it in a Google Doc. So convert percent to decimal, move decimal 2 places to the left. Okay. There are about 45 hundredths kilograms in a pound. Write 45 hundredths kilograms as a fraction in simplest form. Well, for this one, you've already heard me say 45 hundredths. I know this because what I can do is count 2 places to the right of the decimal. And I think of 10, 100, or 1,000. How many of zeros does a 10 have? It's got 1 0. Well, I've got 2 numbers to the right of the decimal. How many zeros does 100 have? It's got 2 zeros. I've got 2 numbers to the right of the decimal, so I know that it's 45 over 100. Okay? Now, this is the fraction. However, it would be incorrect if you were to say that this is your answer. And the reason is because in simplest form. So we got to think of a number that goes into 45 that also goes into 100. Well, I look at this and I say, well, this ends in 5 and this ends in 0. So I know that 5 goes into both of them. So I divide them both by 5. And I know that 5 goes into 100 20 times. I know that 5 goes into 45 9 times. Now I think of 9 and 20, and I can't think of anything right off the top of my head that would simplify here. So I have my simplest form. Again, if you're doing it on a calculator, you could have done 45 ABC 100 and done second ABC. Okay, and it's going to simplify your fraction for you. Again, this is an easy one. Hopefully you didn't, but you could. Next, write 45 kilograms as a percent. Okay, now for this one, if we are doing a decimal to a percent, we are going to move the decimal 2 places again, but 2 places to the right. Okay, so decimal to percent, move the decimal 2 places to the right. So I'm going to say 1, 2, put it here, and it's 45%. And the reason we do this is we multiply it by 100. Okay, and when you multiply something by 100, you are moving the decimal 1, 2 places to the right. I would write this down because in just a minute you're going to have to be answering some Edpuzzle questions along with IXL questions that's going to require you to be able to do this. Next question. Warren buys a can of cat food that weighs 15 hundredths kilograms. Write 1500 kilograms as a fraction in simplest form. Again, 15 is 2 numbers. So you can do 15. I have 2 numbers to the right of the decimal, so I need 2 zeros, put a 1 in front of it. So it's 15 over 100. Now, I see this as a 5, that's a 0. I know that 5 can go into both of these. So I divide both by 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 100 divided by 5 is 20. So I have 3 over 20 is my simplest form. If you have a calculator, you could have said 15 ABC 100 second ABC, hit enter, and get 3 over 20. Hopefully you didn't do it. You could. Next, write 15 hundredths kilograms as a percent. Well, it's decimal to percent. So you need to think of, you are going to multiply by 100. When you multiply by 100, what you are doing is you're moving the decimal 1, 2 places to the right, so it's 15%. Okay? Next, Philip is shopping at a store where everything is on sale for 25% off. Write 25% as a fraction in simplest form. Well, 25%. Percent means per 100. So when you see something that has a percent sign after it, you know that it is out of 100. So this is 25 out of 100. All right. With this one, you need to think of, does it simplify? Because in simplest form, it gets students every single time. So you need to slow down, make sure that your fraction is simplified. I know that 25 goes into itself, and I know that 25 goes into 100. So 25 goes into itself once, 25 goes into 100 4 times. All right? So the simplified answer is 1/4. Next, write 25% as a decimal. We're moving from a percent to a decimal. Now, percents to decimals, you're not going to multiply by 100. You are going to divide by 100. And when you divide, you're moving the decimal 2 places, but in the opposite direction. So I don't see a decimal here, which means it's always setting behind your last number. And I'm going to move it 2 places. So I have 0.25 and 25 hundredths. I'm going to add a 0 here. Now, I would write this down. Okay, I would write this down so that you will have it later on if you don't already know it. Okay. Aaron is a carpenter. He is making a dining table that needs to be 8/10 meters high. Write 8/10 meters as a fraction in simplest form. So this question, we have one number. We have one number to the right of the decimal, so I'm going to put in 10, put a 1 in front of it. So it's 8/10. One number to the right, 10 has 10. That's how I know it's 10. Again, though, this would be incorrect, and the reason is because it's not in simplest form. 8 and 10 are both even numbers, so 2, I know, will go into both. 2 goes into 8 4 times. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 4/5 is my simplified answer. Again, if you have a calculator, you could have said 8 ABC 10, second ABC, hit enter, and gotten 4/5. Again, I really don't like you using this, but I don't care that you use it if you want to check your work or if you are someone who is struggling here at the beginning. But by the end of the lesson, I don't want you to use it. The next one. Write 8/10 meters as a percent. Okay, so we're moving from a decimal to a percent. What should I do? Pause the video and answer the question. Okay, hopefully you said multiply by 100. So I multiply by 100, and what you do when you multiply is move your decimal 1, 2 places, fill that in with a 0. So I get 80%. Okay? Lisa eats a hamburger that is made of 1/2 of a pound of beef. Write 1/2 of a pound as a decimal. So here we're changing a fraction to a decimal, and we haven't done that yet. So fraction to decimal is all you do is divide. So I am going to divide 1 into 2. So the numerator goes inside the house, the denominator stays on the outside. 2 doesn't go into 1, so I add a decimal, add a 0. I'm going to bring my decimal up. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. So there we have long division. Our answer is 5/10 of a pound. If you wanted to, if you have a calculator, you could have done 1 divided by 2. The algorithm of long division is something that was taught to you last year with Mr. Horn or Mr. Gray, so this would be good practice. However, you can use a calculator if you need it. So we have 5/10 as our answer. Write 1/2 of a pound as a percent. Well, we already have the decimal, right? We have the decimal here. Now we need to change this decimal to a percent. So decimal to percent. What should you do? We just answered that question. In the last part, pause the video and answer the question. Okay, hopefully you said you were going to multiply by 100. When you multiply by 100, you're moving it 2 places to the right, and you get 50%. Some of you look at 1/2 and knew that it was 50%. That's fine, as long as you understand the meaning of it. That's the whole purpose of this, is for you to understand the meaning of numbers in relationship to one another. One more. Where's that the last one? No, one more. Okay. At Highdale Middle School, the track around the football field is 25 hundredths miles long. Write 2500 miles, 25 hundredths miles as a fraction in simplest form. Pause the video and answer the question. Alright, you said 25 hundredths. I've got a 2 and a 5. 0, 0, put a 1 in front of it. 25 over 100. You should know this simplifies. We've done this fraction. So we know that 25 will go into itself, and 25 will go into 100. So we get 1/4. That is my final answer. Write 25 hundredths miles as a percent. Okay, pause the video, answer the question. So here we're moving from a decimal to a percent. And when you're moving from a decimal to a percent, you are going to need to multiply by 100. When you multiply this by 100, you move it 2 places to the right, and you get 25%. So the track is 25% of a mile. Guys, that's it for the conversions of fractions, decimals, and percents. It's very quick. However, I think that it is enough to jog your memory. However, if you didn't know how to do this skill from 5th grade, then you may want to ask Ms. Banks or myself for additional help, or you can talk to us about helping you one-on-one in a Google Meet if you're working on this whenever we're not in school. Alright, so now we're at our third thing that we're going to focus on this week, and it is this idea of simple interest. And simple interest is what credit unions or banks will pay you to allow you to put your money into their bank. And the reason that they do that is because they loan your money out to other people at a much higher rate. So let's look at this together. It says that Nicole has $60 in a savings account that earns 5% interest per year. The interest is not compounded. That's a separate type of interest. We'll talk about that, I think, in 8th grade. How much interest will she earn in 1 year? Now, it looks a little bit overwhelming, but it's much simpler than what you may anticipate. Use the formula I equals PRT, where I is the interest earned. So this is going to be how much money they're actually going to pay you. That is what it's going to equal. P is the principal. Now, principal is how much you have in the bank, in your banking account, all right? In this case, Nicole has $60, all right? The next thing is R, which stands for your rate. This is going to be at what rate they're going to be paying you. And Nicole, her bank is 5% interest. Okay, and the last thing is going to be T, which is the time, and how long are you going to leave it there. And she's going to leave her money in there as 1 year. Okay, now let's talk about this real quick. We know that I is equal, so we have I is equal P, principal. Principal is how much you're putting into the bank. So we have $60 in the bank. Okay. We're going to multiply that by the rate. How much or is the bank going to give you? In this case, it's 5%. And then we're going to multiply that by your time. How long are you actually going to be leaving that money into that bank? And that is for 1 year. Okay, so we have 60 times 5% times 1. So I go to my calculator, and I could say 60 times 5, and the way you get your percent is second, open parentheses, times 1. Hit enter, and you get $3. Okay, so the interest is $3. Now, what you have to pay attention to is the question. And in this particular problem, the question is, how much interest will she earn in 1 year? So we know that the interest we just calculated is $3. I'm done here. She made $3 if she goes and puts $60 into this account. What confuses students, and if they miss this, the question will be, how much is her balance? And we're going to see a couple of those here in just a minute. Okay? All right. Now, all I did was took this formula. You do not have to memorize this formula. It will be given to you. And I just understood this was the principal, this is the rate, this is the time, and I multiplied them all together. Okay? Second one, Gabby has $40 in a savings account. She has an interest rate of 5% per year, and it's not compounded. How much will she have in 1, and that should say year. Now again, pay attention here, guys. How much will she have? Not what the interest is, but how much she will have. So now I have my formula. Interest is equal to principal. Principal is how much money she's putting in. She's putting 40 bucks in, so we have 40 times the rate, which is 5%, times the time, which is 1 year. So in your calculator, you're going to say 40 times 5, second, open parentheses, times 1. Hit enter, and I get 2. So the interest is equal to $2. However, if you say your answer is $2, you're wrong. And the reason that you are wrong is because the question is, how much will she have? Well, she's going to have more than $2 because she deposited 40. So in order to calculate how much she's going to have, we need to take the original balance of 40 plus the interest to get the $42 that she has in the account. Okay? Now, let's back up for a second. Some students may not have a calculator, and they may not know how to use the percent button. And what you need to understand that you could do is done the principal, which is 40, times the percent, or the rate. But if you don't have a percent key, or don't know how to use it, you need to change that to a decimal. Remember, percents to decimals, you just divide by 100. Okay, so I would say 5 divided by 100, and that's going to move my decimal. So I could say 40 times 0.05 times 1. You understand that this and this are the same thing, okay? And you're going to get the same answer. Bruce has $40 in a savings account. So $40. The interest rate is 10%. How much will he have in 1 year? Okay, so interest is equal to principal. Pause the video, tell me which one is the principal. Hopefully you said $40. Times. Pause the video, tell me what the rate is. Hopefully you told me 10%. Times the time. What is the time? Pause the video, answer the question. What is the time? Hopefully you told me 1. So now, all I do is say 40 times 10 second, open parentheses, is percent, times 1. And you get 4. So the interest is equal to $4. Now, is that your answer? Look at your question. How much will he have in 1 year? He's not going to just have $4. That's the interest. I have to take the original principal plus his interest, and I'm going to get how much he's going to have. Okay? This question. Harry has $50 in a savings account that earns 10% interest per year. The interest is not compounded. How much interest will he earn in 1 year? Use the formula I equals PRT, where I is the interest, P is the principal. Pause the video and tell me which of these numbers is the principal. Hopefully you said 50. Okay, multiply that by the rate. Pause the video, tell me which one of these 3 numbers is the rate. Hopefully you said 10%. Multiply that by the time. Okay, pause the video, tell me which one of these 3 numbers is the time. 1. So here, I'm going to say 50 times 10% times 1. I get $5. Interest is equal to $5. Now go to your original question. How much interest will he earn? Now with this, how much interest they will earn, I don't need to add it because it's not wanting to know how much he has or what's the balance. It's just wanting to know the interest. Brianna has $40 in a savings account. Interest rate is 10% per year and is not compounded. How much will she have in 2 years? Interest is equal to, pause the video, tell me what the principal is. Hopefully you said $40 times, pause the video, tell me what the rate is. Hopefully you said 10%. Times the time. Pause the video, tell me what the time is for this. Hopefully you said 2. Now, I want you to tell me what is the interest. Okay, so the interest is 40 times 10% times 2, and we get $8. $8 is not the answer to our question because it says how much will she have in 2 years. So to do that, I take the 40 plus the 8 to get $48, and that is the amount that she has. All right, I want you to pause the video and I want you to answer the question. So we have $20, 10%, and how much will she have in 2 years? So I did 20, which is the principal, times the rate of 10%, times the time of 2 years, and I got the interest is equal to $4. $4 is not my answer, however, because it wants to know how much she will have, so I add it to the beginning principal to get $24. The next question, it says Gwen has $50,000 in a savings account that earns 9% interest per year. The interest is not compounded. How much will she have in 1 year? Pause the video and answer the question. All right, so the principal was $50,000. The rate is 9%. The time is 1 year. I multiplied these two numbers, got $4,500. I need to pay attention to my question. How much will she have in 1 year? So I need to make sure that I added the interest back to the principal. If the question was wanting to know how much interest she would have earned in a year, this would have been my answer. Lily has $100,000 in a savings account that earns 13% annually. The interest is not compounded. How much will she have in 3 years? Pause the video and answer the question. Okay, for this question, the principal was $100,000. The rate was 13%. The time was 3 years. I multiplied these three numbers to get $39,000. That is the interest. My question says, how much will she have in 3 years? Well, at the end of 3 years, she would have $139,000. Now, guys, I want to talk to you about this. So I did make a mistake. I think I put $390,000. But once I wrote that, I said, no, that can't be. That doesn't make sense. So you are needing to learn that you are always reflecting on your answers. And you're wanting to ask yourself, well, does that make sense? Would she make almost $400,000 on $100,000 making 13% interest? And the answer is no. So that is how I did and caught my mistake, and hopefully you are starting to do the same if you haven't always been that way. So for this particular question, our answer is $139,000 is how much she would have at the end of 3 years. The interest is $39,000. This question says Robert has $67,113 in a savings account. The interest rate is 8% per year and is not compounded. How much will he have in 4 years? Pause the video and answer the question. Okay, so for this one, the principal was $67,113. I multiplied that by a rate of 8% times the time, which is 4 years, and I got an interest of $21,476.16. The question says, how much will he have in 4 years? So I need to add that to the beginning principal, and Robert would have $88,589.16. All right, last question. Christine has $29,625 in a savings account that earns 14% interest per year. The interest is not compounded. How much interest will she earn in 4 years? Pause the video and answer the question. All right. The principal was $29,625 multiplied by a rate of 14% times a time of 4 years. My question was, how much interest will she earn in 4 years? So I'm done here. I don't need to add it back to the original principle or balance because the question wants to know about interest. So we had three things this week that we needed to focus on. One, which is this, which is simple interest. Second is looking at conversions between fractions, decimals, and percent. That is a fifth grade skill that you review in sixth grade, and you need to know as seventh graders. Um, we wanted to make sure that you all have that, so we talked about that this week. And the third thing is over of equals percent over 100, the percent equation, knowing when to substitute where. Remember, line equals line, your constant is 100, look for the percent, put that over the 100, and then you look for the is and the of. If you're struggling and you're in class, let us know. We want to help you. We'll figure out a way to help you. If you're struggling and you are at home, email us, reach out, and let us know that you need help. And we will set up a Google Meet one-on-one and we will walk you through this. Guys, if we can ever help you, do not hesitate to let us know. We are here to make you successful in seventh grade math, and that's what we want to do. I hope you have a good week, and I look forward to seeing you all again.